What are the Seattle Seahawks going to do with Noah Fant? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday. And we are now officially in the slow season. I would call this firmly the slowest part of the NFL offseason. We've got about 6 weeks of not a heck of a lot going on. This second half of June to late July period of time is just not a lot to say when it comes to NFL stuff. We're waiting for a couple of things to resolve themselves. We've got some trades going on probably, but for the most part, we're chilling. But there are some things that we as Seahawks fans can discuss with regards to this team. And I want to go through a couple of those topics while we're waiting for the little bit of action we're going to get over the next 6 weeks. So we've kind of discussed this stuff in previous videos, previous streams. I'm not going to go over anything that hasn't already been covered to some degree, but I think it's a good time to revisit some of this stuff. So let's talk a little bit about one particular player on the Seahawks who is still on the roster, but I'm not sure what his place is on this team going forward. So we're talking about Noah Fant, talking about the, as of right now, nominal starting tight end. What's he going to do? What are we dealing with? What are we doing? So Noah Fant, here's the thing. I think Noah Fant's a pretty decent player. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people think he's bad. I don't think he's bad. He's just relatively forgettable. He's just somewhat anonymous. There's nothing particularly standout or remarkable about him, but he belongs in this league as a starter. I think that's very clear. I think that he clearly is a starting caliber NFL player, but with the Seahawks being in the position that they are, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to keep him around. So let's talk about what can be done with Noah Fant. Before we get to all that, though, please click the thumbs up button on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. So, Noah Fant, what can be done? Now, again, I want to emphasize something here. This is not a bad player. He's not been the big breakout player that we were hoping when we acquired him in the Russell Wilson trade many years ago. He has not even been as prolific a receiver as he was in Denver. Now, I think there are some pretty good reasons for that. The Seahawks have been a pretty heavy 2 tight end and 3 tight end team. So his opportunities have gotten spread around a little bit. Last year, he got hurt and missed a few games. And even beyond that, the Seahawks have also been, especially last year, when you think about it, last year they were a very 3 wide receiver heavy team. And they had 3 receivers that they liked to target. So if you're Noah Fant, you just don't have that many opportunities. Like, think about it like this. Yeah, he only caught the ball like 130 times over the last 3 seasons. But look at how much he was getting targeted over that 3-season period, 170. So he actually did a pretty good job catching the balls that were thrown his way. And he barely ever drops the ball. I think he's only got maybe, it depends on what website you look at, but I think he's only got like 3 or 4 drops since becoming a Seahawk. And generally speaking, he's been there when we needed him. He's missed 3 games over the last 3 years. I know sometimes he plays injured, but he is, for the most part, showed up to work pretty much every single game. But I don't think it makes a lot of sense for him to continue to be a Seahawk. Not because of anything he's not doing or anything that he is doing, but I don't think you can spend a 2nd-round pick on a tight end that does a lot of the same things that Noah Fant does in theory and continue to keep Noah Fant on your team when you've also got another tight end in the mix here who is clearly advocating for more playing time in A.J. Barner. A.J. Barner played really effectively last year, like much better than I would have expected, much better than I think anybody expected. So you can't shelve him, or at least you really don't want to shelve him. So I don't think that's the solution. And while I know that Kubiak's offense is very tight end heavy, it's also going to be a pretty run heavy offense in theory, right? That's what we keep getting told. We want to run the ball. So you've already got one tight end who you can't get rid of in Arroyo, who doesn't block that well. He's, I think, at best a mediocre blocker and will probably be worse than that as a rookie. So how are you also going to incorporate a guy like Noah Fant, who's the same thing? He's a move tight end, and he's not a very good blocker. You look at his career, PFF backs this up, not a good blocker. Maybe there have been a couple moments where he's been an adequate blocker, like 2023. They did give him some credit for good blocking that year, or at least workable blocking. But other than that, pretty much every year he is a problem in that area. And a problem, I mean, for the offense. Like, these are all pretty poor graded seasons out as a pass blocker, and he's never had an above 60 run blocking grade season. And I think that mostly matches up with what you see when you watch him play. So when you think about a 3 tight end offense like what we had a couple years ago with Fant, Dissly, and Parkinson, the thing about that was that Dissly was a really good blocker, and Parkinson was surprisingly a pretty good blocker as well. So it meshed together a little bit better with somebody like Fant, who wasn't a very good blocker. But now you've got Arroyo. How are you going to make this work? It doesn't fit together as well, and somebody's going to get left out in the cold in all likelihood. Is it going to be Fant, who you're paying a good amount of money to, or is it going to be Arroyo, who you just spent a second-round pick on? I think that the answer needs to be neither. And there's also the money part of this, too. If Noah Fant was just making a couple $1 million, okay, but he's due $13.4 million in 2025. He is going to be making a significant amount of money, and if you move him, even if you cut him, by the way, I don't think you're going to have to cut him, but even if you do cut him, you're only looking at $4.5 million dead. Now, I think that if you trade him, it'll probably be somewhere around there as well. So I'm not looking for a team to take on some of his bonus money and lower our dead cap even further, but even that, $9 million. That's $9 million in savings. And I know some people might be tempted to say, well, we don't need the additional money because we don't have enough to spend it on. Remember, cap space rolls over. So if you make this move, you might not spend the $9 million now, but you're getting an extra $9 million potentially to spend next year, or roll that over to the year after that. That's the benefit here. Not because we need this money to sign somebody else. This is, we're thinking about 2026. And we're thinking about 2026 in a way that isn't hurting 2025 that much, because I don't think that going from Noah Fant, Elijah Arroyo, and AJ Barner to Elijah Arroyo, AJ Barner, and X is going to diminish anything all that much. There's only one football, and our receivers can, our tight ends can only get on the field a certain percentage of the time. So what I'm trying to get at here is I believe Noah Fant needs to be traded. Now, where could he be traded? Couple different reasonable solutions here. Don't expect a big return, though. One evolving situation would be what's going on in Miami with Jonnu Smith. The Miami Dolphins have given Jonnu Smith permission to seek a trade as of, I believe, yesterday. We've known that he was looking to go somewhere else earlier this offseason. I think the Steelers are supposedly in on a Jonnu Smith trade. They're probably working on that as we speak. If not a team like the Steelers, there are plenty of other teams that could use a player like a Jonnu Smith. There are many, many other teams out there that could get involved with a guy like this. He is a good player. He is a very effective player. And I think the Miami thing just isn't working out all that well for him. They do go relatively receiver heavy there, right? Because they've got Hill and Waddle. I can understand why a tight end would feel a little bit neglected in that offense, I guess. So this is a situation to monitor. If you look at the Dolphins depth chart right now, if they lose Jonnu Smith, they've got very little. They've got Julian Hill, Pharaoh Brown, our old buddy, Tanner Connor, Alec Ingold is their fullback. Like, there's not anything there. And I know that they're the Dolphins, and I know they like to go heavy with the receivers. They can't go this heavy with receivers. They need some competency at tight end. And if they trade Jonnu Smith, then I think that there's a clear need for somebody of a Noah Fant caliber at tight end. Now, what would you get for Noah Fant? Like I said, don't look for much here. I think the best you could do is a 5th round pick. I would expect something more like a 6th or a 7th, just almost like a token donation, just to make you feel like you got something, right? You don't want to, just to kind of make you feel good about what you did. You get this little piddling pick that I know doesn't sound like much, but you're not trading him for the pick so much as you are the cap space. So I think that that's a pretty reasonable thought here. They trade Jonnu Smith, and then they trade for Noah Fant for less than they got for Jonnu Smith. And then they feel like, hey, we came out pretty good here. And the Seahawks feel like, hey, we got a little something for Noah Fant. I think it comes together fairly well. So if not the Dolphins, like maybe the Dolphins don't trade Jonnu Smith, even though I think they will, you can definitely go discuss things with some of the other teams that may have wanted Jonnu Smith but struck out on him and now need another tight end. So there are going to be teams out there that want a player like Noah Fant. Like I said, there's nothing here that tells me that this is a bad player. He's perfectly workable in the NFL. Now, where does that leave the Seahawks if they trade Noah Fant? You've got Arroyo as your move tight end, or some people call it an F tight end. You've got A.J. Barner as your blocking tight end. But you need that third tight end. And Brady Russell maybe could be like that and also do like a little bit of fullback stuff. There's Eric Saubert, who we signed during the offseason a couple months ago. This is a former 49er. This is a former Falcon, Byrd, Jaguar, Bronco, Texan, Cowboy. Very much a journeyman in this league. But this would probably be your third tight end right now. He's never been a very prolific receiver, but he is considered to be a good blocker. And that's what you need here. You need somebody who can block, somebody who can run block. He was graded very well by PFF in run blocking last year compared to other tight ends. It's probably going to be this guy, and I think that works. Obviously, he's not as good as Noah Fant, but I think it brings the room together a little bit better. And if Saubert isn't good enough, maybe you're thinking, hey, Kubiak needs 3 viable tight ends, and Saubert's too limited. There are some options out there. Gerald Everett's still a free agent. Old man Mercedes Lewis still getting it done at 41 years old. I don't think he's retired yet. Jordan Akins is all right. CJ Uzoma has been a fairly notable player in this league for a while. Our old buddy Nick Vannett, Hayden Hurst, veteran. Peyton Hendershot has been a pretty decent player in this league. There are options here that are fairly viable that I think you could go after very reasonably. And these guys should cost, vet min or very close to it. These guys should be very cheap. You're going to be saving, even if you go from Noah Fant to one of these guys, you're going to be saving $7.5, maybe even $8 million. Or, well, not quite 8 million, but close to 8 million. And if you go to Saubert, if you just say Saubert's tight end 3, and we're just going to roll with that, then even better. Then you're not spending any money to mitigate the loss of Fant because he's already here. But if Saubert's not good enough for you, there are other options. And again, I just don't think there's a big drop off, not because Fant's bad, but because what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Again, it's a scenario where you've got 3 tight ends. Who's going to be diminished? Who's going to be shelved? Because I don't think you can have 2 tight ends in this offense out of a 3 tight end group that do not block well. One of those 2 guys gets shelved, and I don't want to shelve a guy making over $13 million a year, and I don't want to shelve a guy that we spent a 2nd round pick on. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. And a couple more videos like this coming in the next few days. Just talking about what we can while we wait for stuff to happen. Everyone have a good day.